chess. The game played by monks, dictators, and supercomputers. Now this game has been almost the same over the past 400 to 500 years. So today we are going to be taking chess to the next level. And stick around to the end to find out where you can play this for yourself. I started off looking at some cursed chessboards, but eventually I found an idea that was just too good to pass up. A circular chessboard. Now a standard chessboard is 8 by 8, and this is because there's 8 pieces across and then some space to promote and attack other pieces. Now for a circular chessboard we realistically have two main approaches. We could have one side defending the center and then one on the perimeter, or we could have black on one side and then white on the other, which I think is a better idea because I think it would be easier to balance. So I started off doing what I do best, doing things that I don't know how to do, and opened up my graphic design software to make a circular board texture. Now, there are some pretty huge gaps in this texture, but we can sort that out later if it's necessary. So with our circle done, I found some 2D pieces on Wikipedia, and now we really have all the art that we need to get started. So the first thing that I did was I made a pretty simple drag and drop script, but we need to work on this because the pieces don't really snap nicely, and you can still make illegal moves. My idea is to make the pieces move like they do in regular chess, so if you've played the original chess, your knowledge will still sort of transition into this, but I just want to sort of make it awful to play. The first piece we're going to recreate is the king. The king, if you're aware, can move to any square adjacent to his original square, except of course on top of other pieces or into check, which we'll all add later. A thing that I really underestimated is the sheer amount of trigonometry required for this. If we were programming regular chess to figure out which row and column the piece is in, we can just look at the linear offset on the x and y, but for circular chess, yeah, it's just not pleasant. Anyways, after about 30 minutes, I put together this grid of circles, and now our king is snapping to them nicely. The way this works is actually quite genius, I know. Now the way this works is by finding the length and angle of the vector of the king from the center of the board, and then from there we can round the angle and distance to one of these increments. And about 2 more hours later, our king now shows his valid moves. And from this we can sort of have the basis for the movements of all of our other pieces. I wasn't expecting at all how powerful these rooks would be, especially in the center, so it'll be really interesting to see how this actually plays out in a real game. Eventually though, we have all the pieces working, so I took the time to rework this chessboard texture a little bit. It's a lot more cleaner now and all lined up. Here's roughly what I'm thinking for the final setup of the board. I haven't really implemented stuff like pawn promotion, and you can move pieces inside of each other and through blocked rows, so let's fix that. The way I'm thinking of fixing this is, as our piece loops through the possible points along the diagonal, for example, we can check if there's already a piece in that place, and then if there is, we can stop the loop and return all of the points up to that point, which actually worked hella well. Let's get to work on adding pawn promotion. So in the movement, I added a check for pawns to see if they are on the last row or not. And if it is, we just get a queen by default, because realistically if you choose any of these other pieces, you're a psychopath. And after breaking the game a few times, we actually have something that's working fairly well. And I'm honestly so proud of the progress that we've made so far. So my goal for today is to add piece capturing, turns, multiplayer, and then publish the game. I started off by setting up the black side of the board. I have to place the pawns on the first row for now, behind all the pieces. I'll probably find a better solution for this later on, but the reason for this is that if we just put both sides of rooks on the same side, white would just take black's rook on the first move, and it wouldn't be great. Now after setting everything up, I just made sure it all worked. And it's time to add piece capturing. This honestly took a lot longer than I expected, but I got it working by adding a simple check that just checks if you're moving into an opposing piece. And if you do, I just call this capture function, where we remove that piece from the board. I also set up a slightly more playable setup of the board. I found that just too many pawns would get extremely hectic, as unlike regular chess, it's a lot harder for your opponent to stop your pawns from promoting in the final rank. Overall, I'm quite happy with this, and after playing against myself for a while, I think it's time to add some multiplayer. I made some badass UI for entering your game code, and then I clicked on the add multiplayer button and we have multiplayer. I'm just kidding, it was a lot of sweat and tears. I'm using Photon for the multiplayer, which is a bit overkill, honestly. Like, it's got client-side prediction and lag compensation for the movement of these chess pieces, but it gets the job done, so it is what it is. And after a bit of bug fixing, I got an unsuspecting member of our Discord to play it, and honestly it was pretty funny. So yeah, if you're interested in playing with some friends, I've dropped a link to it in the description. It's still sort of janky, like I haven't implemented stuff like checks, so it just relies on honesty sort of, but yeah, if enough people enjoy it, I can update it. To play with friends, just put in the same number or whatever in the game code right here. Enjoy.